Hi, I'm Pastor David with Declaration Church, and today I was thinking about how just a few years ago, maybe it's been longer than that, but time flies, and as you get older, it seems to go by faster and faster. And it was just a few years ago that I remember seeing everywhere on t-shirts and hats and bumper stickers and all over the place this "No Fear" slogan, and it went all over the place. And people got really into this, so it became this kind of merch movement where everybody was starting to wear or drive around with a bumper sticker on their car that said "No Fear." And the idea behind it, of course, was that you were going to live fearlessly. You were going to do whatever needed to be done, and you weren't going to be intimidated by all of these things around you or the fears that come with the unknown. And that's something that I think, all would love to do. We idealize that. We appreciate when we see other people living as though they are fearless, with no fear, with no concern, with anything that's going to go on, and they're able to take risks and do things that we just can't even imagine ourselves doing. We admire that in people. And yet the question really arises in my mind, how many people really live that way? And the honest answer is really not many. I think for the most part, if we're honest, in our most honest and vulnerable moments, would admit that we have fears, that we have things we're afraid of. We're afraid of the future. We're afraid of the unknown. We're afraid of maybe being abandoned or left behind. We're afraid of being left out. We're afraid of what might happen if we do something or don't do something. And those fears, sometimes they paralyze us. They keep us from moving forward in what God has for us. And as I was reading through the Psalms, in Psalm 3, David is writing in a situation where, honestly, I would be afraid. I would have a lot of fear because his son is actually gathering together a force, an army, to overthrow him. He's actually staging a coup, and he is trying to forcefully take the throne from his father. His son Absalom is engaged in warfare against him, and David has left the city of Jerusalem. He's got his allies with him. There is an army with him. He's going away, but he knows that there's a possibility at this point that when he leaves Jerusalem, he will not return, and he will no longer be sitting on the throne. And so as he's engaged with that very real circumstance, he writes Psalm 3. And in verse 6, he writes, "I will not be afraid of many thousands of people who have set themselves against me all around." I don't know about you, but if there were many thousands of people setting themselves against me, surrounding me, trying to take me out, trying to destroy me, I would feel some fear, probably a lot of fear. And yet David in this circumstance is saying, I'm not afraid. I will not be afraid in this circumstance. Why would David not be afraid in a circumstance like that where he's being surrounded or being confronted and attacked by many thousands of people? And really the answer comes down to one thing. He has great confidence in God. He knows that what God wants for him, if God wants him to remain on the throne and to remain as king of Israel, if God wants him to be victorious, then there is nothing to be afraid of. Because God, even with the odds stacked against us, will overcome those odds and bring us to the other side. God will bring us through to victory when that is God's intention. And so no matter what the circumstance is right now that you're facing in your life, God has a plan for you, and God's plan will be fulfilled if you just remain surrendered to Him and walk out the steps that He places in front of you. God can overcome tremendous odds. He can overcome those things that seem impossible to overcome. God can overcome. He is the Almighty. He is the All-Powerful. He is unstoppable, and will always get us to where we need to be if we will simply surrender to Him. And that's where David is in this point. He is surrendered to God. He's surrendered to God's plan. He is doing things God's way. He wants to just see God's will accomplished. And by being surrendered to God, he knows that he has no reason to be afraid. And so that's my encouragement to you today. If you are following Jesus, if you are surrendered to God in your life, if you are doing what you can to follow God and to take the steps he's asked you to take, you cannot fail. And there's no reason for you to be afraid. Simply take the steps and walk with God because he's walking with you through this period of time. Even if things seem impossible, even if it feels like you are up against immeasurable, just impossible odds, with God, you cannot fail. And so if you're going through a difficult time right now, trust in God. Surrender to him. Let him lead you through from where you are now to where he wants you to be. And if you have not surrendered your life to Jesus, I want to encourage you to consider that. Consider surrendering your life to Jesus and following his plan for your life, because his love and his passion for you and his plan for you are greater than anything you could possibly imagine. And he is waiting there with open arms for you to simply surrender everything to him. If you've come to the end of yourself, if you're not sure you can go on your own, if you don't think you have the strength to move forward another step, know that God's strength is enough to get you where you need to be. Just surrender to him. And I hope this has been encouraging to you. If this is a video that's been encouraging to you, if this is something that has helped you today, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with people that you know need that same kind of encouragement. And when you subscribe to the channel, just know that we'll be, click the little bell so that you're notified when new content is posted, and then you are kept up to date on what's going on, and we can continue to encourage you with the content that we bring. As always, I'm Pastor David, and I'm out.